The picture shows a somewhat puzzled Colonel Sanders posing with a rather surprised Alice Cooper. This photo was taken sometime in the 1970s. Okay. So, Team Drunk USA doesn't really exist, but these two ladies have the right idea. As you can see in this entertaining photo, these two stylish chicks are fully equipped and ready to party like it's 1960. Or maybe after that go for a run? The resemblance between the two ferocious, long-legged divas has not escaped the attention of the modern public. Both women share a passion for glamorous ensembles and an ability to sell out arenas, but Tina Turner is the only one. Turner was one of the first pioneers of black female artists. The only thing worse than being stuck in the middle of a bloody war is being stuck there while on vacation. The picture shows two members of the U.S. Army's 522nd Field Artillery Battalion, UFAB. Who said Fonzie was always the coolest guy in the room? Happy Days was meant to be a nostalgic TV show. Set in the 1970s at a difficult time, the series takes place in the 1950s and follows the life of the Cunningham family in simpler times. Only Marilyn Monroe could make a leg injury and a miserable expression look good. The actress was injured while working on the set of the film River of No Return in 1953. When the United States entered the war in 1917, Walt Disney wanted to join the army like his brothers, but he was only 16 and too young. Disney learned that the Red Cross Ambulance Corps is accepting volunteers as young as 17 years old. So Disney used his artistic ability to change his date of birth on his passport application from 1,901 inches to 1,900. Candy Loving, 1979. The photo shows the guys responsible for creating a model of the Star Trek Enterprise studio in 1964. It was originally built in 1964 by Richard K. Dayton, Jr., Mel Keys, Vernon Sion, above, and Volmer Jensen, not pictured. Recovered 4 times. On this rare occasion, Andre the Giant made a day trip to Disneyland in 1975. Pictured is award-winning actress Meryl Streep while still in high school in the 1960s. As you can see, she was already an artist back then, sporting a cheerleading uniform and a huge smile on her face. Pictured is horror master Sir Alfred Hitchcock and a model posing in front of a house in Psycho. The photo was taken by photographer Jean-Luc Sif for the January 1962 issue of Harper's Bazaar. Beatlemania is the best word to describe the intense fan frenzy directed against the legendary rock band The Beatles back in the 1960s. These fans weren't just starstruck. People, especially teenage girls, were obsessed. They were just crazy about the band. Pictured is Debbie Harry, better known as Blondie, on stage in 1979. Pictured is legendary comedic genius Robin Williams in 1979. Williams is a master of comedy in all its forms: black comedy, farce, stand-up, improvisation, work in film, television, sketch comedy. He even mastered humor for children's entertainment. Williams did it all. At one time, NASA even ran its own beauty pageant. Pictured is Miss NASA 1971. Although there is not much information available, it appears that the contest was held from at least 1968 to 1973. On November 27, 1963, Johnson told lawmakers, "No memorial speech or eulogy could more eloquently honor President Kennedy than the earliest passing of the Civil Rights Bill for which he fought for so long." Pictured are Tim Curry as Frank Furter, Patricia Quinn as Magenta, and Nell Campbell as Columbia in the Rocky Horror Picture Show 1975. This fun young band, some of whom seem to be strolling, lounge and dance to rock and roll on the quays of Paris in the middle of the day. Nikki Taylor, 1992. When the first telephone lines began to appear, not everyone was so happy about it. Some people, especially farmers and very religious people, considered themselves to be evil. More precisely, evil could pass through them and enter their homes. In addition to the roller discos of the 1970s, roller skating spawned quite a few subcultures. A more sporting application of roller skating was the roller derby. Pictured is the World Trade Center Twin Towers shortly after completion in October 1975. In 1977, Prince was only 19 years old and recording his first album when photographer Robert Whitman was invited to take his first professional series of photographs. Only 15 copies of the original press kit were released. Cody Ravioli, Gina Valavetro, Connie and Becky, 1990. In memory of the former Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army and the first President of the United States, George Washington, the construction of the Washington Monument began in 1848. The Munsters is a family sitcom depicting the everyday life of a family of monsters. The series was a satire of healthy families popular at the time, as well as traditional monster movies. Aside from his obvious musical genius, singer Elton John has always been famous for his insane and over-the-top wardrobe choices for his performances. Here he is around 1984 in one of his most gorgeous and ridiculous outfits, with a wildly embellished headdress. Pictured, former President Harry Truman sits in the back of a presidential limousine with his successor, President-elect Dwight Eisenhower. They were leaving the White House and heading to the Capitol for Eisenhower's inauguration ceremony on January 20th, 1953. Beautiful Monica Bellucci, 1990. The photo shows the once popular green S and H brands. They traded stamps and were part of a reward system popular in the United States from the 1930s until the late 1980s. Pictured is rocker Joan Jett oblivious to her bad reputation at the Tropicana Motel in 1978. Pictured is the Hindenburg airship passing the Empire State Building over Manhattan on August 8, 1936. Pictured is the Beach Boys in 1965, the same year that Salt Lake City was released. The Beach Boys became incredibly popular because their California surf-inspired sound was so unique. Coca-Cola was first officially sold in France in 1950. Dance marathons were wildly popular during the Great Depression era. They were a kind of reality show of the time. It was not only dancing, but also a way to make money as a spectator sport. The first man on the moon, at the NACA high-speed flight station in 1960. As a NASA research pilot, he was assigned to make the first test flight of an X-15 rocket-powered aircraft. We watched Johnny Carson host The Tonight Show for 30 years, and we didn't know how good we were until he retired. Pictured is the interior of the Titanic's cabin. In addition to sleeping in a magnificent suite, those who traveled first class had luxuries such as a gym, a squash court, and a 7-foot-deep saltwater pool. In the picture, Bette Davis and Joan Crawford look deceptively happy next to each other on the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? The Three Stooges were an American comedy team that existed from 1928 to 1970. They rose to fame during the Great Depression and are still considered one of the most popular comedy acts of the 20th century. Farrah Fawcett in 1977. Fawcett was one of the most successful actresses of her time. Well, that's all for me. Thanks for watching. See you soon.